My favorite actor, Nicolas Cage, is back in a brand new movie that is going to be hitting the mainstream audience in his biggest budget film since Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, if you can believe it, from 2013, as playing Dracula in this brand new supernatural comedy horror film. And I'm really excited to talk about this one because, well, it's Nicolas Cage. Let's just get to the review. Welcome back, film fans. It is Brad from Let's We Roll Brad, and today in the channel, I want to talk to you guys about Renfield. Renfield is based off of the 1897 novel Dracula, and it is partially based on everything that we know about Dracula as a character, and this movie does expect you to know about Dracula in the first place because it is such an iconic character and of the story itself. But what I think this movie does so incredibly well is the fact that this movie takes a very modern day hilarious approach to it, where we have this relationship between Renfield and Dracula that is very toxic and not the way that Renfield wants to be treated, which is something we have seen in many of the other Dracula type films of how he treats Renfield. And I felt that the choices for these two characters, with Renfield played by Nicholas Huyo and Dracula played by Nicolas Cage, had such the great pairing together, as their chemistry was phenomenal. All the scenes with them together were some of the best parts of the movie. They were very hilarious and they just fit these characters so perfectly. When I went to the early screening for this movie last night, everyone in my theater was exploding with laughter, and you can feel it, as this is a very easy movie to watch with some great written jokes that everybody can enjoy, and some of the jokes go really far with the gory and horror aspects as you would want from a movie like this. One of the biggest surprises for me was Awkwafina, as I am a big fan of her, but I feel like in a lot of recent movies she's been in, she has been the typical Awkwafina performance that we have been getting. And in this movie, she does give sort of that, but I found like she was really good in this movie and found the right role for her, and she ate up every scene that she was in, as well as Ben Schwartz. I mean, this guy is so funny. He has so much range, and he is just a perfect fit for this film, especially with the tone and how silly and over the top is. He plays a perfect villain in this movie. One of the things that stood out to me while watching this film was the makeup, costume design, and the effects, because this movie relies very heavily on practical effects, especially with Dracula, and you see his transformation. And this movie reminded me very heavily of a Guillermo del Toro type of film, where he uses a lot of creepy and weird special effects in his movies and less on CGI, and it looked amazing, especially the first time that we meet Dracula in the modern day world. I just could not stop staring at the screen of how amazing he looked. This movie also has an incredibly great pace, as this movie is only around like an hour and a half or so, and this movie just does exactly what you think it's gonna do. It has a very fast pace, and you feel like you do get everything out of this movie, and in some ways it is a little bit of a negative, which I will get into later in the video. But I think if you're looking for a movie that just is a nice popcorn horror comedy type of movie that you just want to enjoy at the movie theater, then this movie is just going to hit. While this movie is a supernatural comedy horror film, this movie also has a ton of action in this movie, and let me tell you, the action is pretty solid, as many of the kills in this movie were definitely inspired by Mortal Kombat, as some of the kills in this movie are just off the wall crazy. Unfortunately, I do have quite a bit of criticisms here, and I do have to start with the editing, as I found many of the dialogue heavy scenes to be really choppy and poorly put together, and it just doesn't feel like the movie's allowed to breathe. While this movie does have a pretty solid screenplay, I did find it to have a lot of problems here, not with the jokes by any means, because I thought they were great, just with the characters and the storylines and some of the subplots in this movie, mainly with this criminal organization that seems like they're the biggest aspect of this movie that does control a lot of the plot. It's just not developed all that well. They don't really feel menacing or really that integral for the plot to be all that interesting. And there's also a major twist that comes out of nowhere in the middle of the film that involves this crime organization that just felt so silly and over the top. Like, I get it, you have Nicolas Cage as Dracula, like how silly can you get? But when you have a film that's trying to be as grounded as it possibly can with just adding Dracula and all a bunch of weird, creepy crap into the movie, having this major twist just not make any sense just didn't really work for me, and it just felt like a plot device to just keep things moving and to give some of the characters more motivation to do things, but it doesn't feel very logical in this world, and it was very distracting and a big criticism of mine. While I did find this movie to be really entertaining and gave me exactly what I was looking for, I did feel like this movie was very simple, and for some people, they're not gonna mind that, but this movie could have been so much more. They could have pushed the jokes even further, and they just don't do it in this movie. It feels very surface level, straight to the point, where the characters are given the basic character arcs you would expect when you see them in the beginning. You kind of know where they're all going to end up by the end of the movie. The story isn't all that complicated. It doesn't feel like there's real stakes in this movie, and I also found the horror just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, as this movie is mostly a comedy film. So if you're really into that, then that's great, but because this movie is a horror film at its core with being a comedy itself, the horror just didn't really work for me. It wasn't as creepy. There could have been way more tension in the third act, and you just feel like everything's just gonna work out at a certain point. Overall, Renfield was a very entertaining comedy horror film that is exactly what you think it is by its trailer. Nicolas Cage was phenomenal as Dracula in his supporting role, and I feel like this movie is just made for the people that just enjoy gory, over-the-top, hilarious horror films like this one, especially with being as short as it is. While I did think this movie had a lot of different criticisms and things that just really annoyed me, I still had a really great time watching this film, and I think you should go check it out if you are already excited for it. So thank you guys so much for checking out this review. As I want to know below in the comment section, have you seen Renfield? Are you excited to see it? Are you a big Nicolas Cage fan as I am? Let me know. I can't wait to hear about it. Before you guys check out this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a like as you always should, and ring that notification bell so I can see you all in the following video.